Hey friends, it's book recommendation time. Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Maté and his son Daniel. Highly recommend this book. Myth of Normal, Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture, to be exact. If we haven't met, I am Megan. I'm a former public school teacher. You never know. Also, English as a foreign language teacher. I'm currently really focusing on yoga, meditation, energy work. And if you appreciate or like this, it would be great if you like this video or subscribe to my channel. I asked for this as a gift. No idea how thick it was. One of my brothers got this for me, but I will tell you it's really digestible. It didn't feel like it, was hard. It didn't feel like I was like taking a college course, even though it's full of research. So the chapters are short. You can really sit and enjoy it. It's really readable. It's really digestible. So although this covers a wide range of topics, the overarching argument is that in the Western world, our culture, our lifestyles, our values, our beliefs, our systems are toxic. And when you think of when you get a blood test, for instance, and you look to see if you're in the normal range, we tend to think of normal equals healthy. And so the argument here is that what we consider normal is not healthy at all. In fact, it's toxic. It's our norm is leading to illnesses, diseases, addictions. So can we rethink normal, or can we break these, habits and patterns that we're in? I think everyone would appreciate this book, but especially if you are interested in self-discovery, wellness, yoga, psychology, the medical system, political systems, the education system. If you have any sort of illness at all, or somebody that you are close to is struggling with a terminal illness or an addiction. It also really gets into parenting a lot. So, I mean, I can't think of anyone wouldn't somehow relate to something in this book. But I guess perhaps if you live in a culture that is really, really healthy, you might just want to read it for fun then. So what are some things that are toxic? Competition-centered education system. I can speak on that for sure. Our image-mad culture, our consumer culture, societal expectations that we have to conform, where we are not our authentic selves, where maybe we have to be like the good girl or become what our parents imagine for us to become, even though it's really against our nature. It gets into how children are often denied free play and exploration, how we are often taught to not express our emotions or not feel them, or certain, feelings and emotions are bad and need to be quieted. Okay, so a little bit about the authors. Dr. Gabor, I think is so admirable. He is so experienced, intelligent, and also humble. He was a Holocaust survivor. He was born in Hungary. He's been a practicing physician for over 20 years, so he speaks so much from firsthand experience and from interviewing patients. And he's also really open about his own flaws. He's open about his flaws in parenting, even as a partner. He's had some addictions, not maybe what you would expect, but it's just he's very sincere. And Daniel is a composer, a lyricist. Daniel also runs a popular mental chiropractic service called Walk with Daniel. So I appreciate leaders who are not afraid to speak the truth, even if it's controversial. And there are definitely some topics in this book that would bring up some serious arguments or debates, which I love. I'm all about. If you want to have a book club and get into this, I want to be part of it. But based on the research, based on the evidence, there is truth, and it is not easy to hear, but it's important to hear. So if you're into that, if you're not into, just, especially he gets into the medical profession of just putting band-aids over problems, prescribing drugs, and not getting into the core of where the disease or illness or addiction or whatever it is began. I'll just get into some concepts, some ideas. Again, I'm just scratching the surface. But for instance, on page 9, he mentions that the mind and body cannot be dissected and separated, that it's all connected. And so when we are treating an illness, for instance, he says it arises from a web of circumstances, relationships, events, and experiences. And so it just really gets into helping to heal as a very holistic approach. Gabor is an expert on trauma. And I love this. He says that trauma is not what happened to us, but what happened inside of us as a result. So I know some people get a little like, oh, we're too sensitive. We talk about this too much. Well, that's fine. Whatever you think is fine. But it's this concept of you can have trauma. You could literally have been in a war, okay, and have what we consider big T trauma. Or there could have been a battle in your home. Or something could have happened in school or in the neighborhood. And it's whatever happened inside of you that is creating, that what's going on in here. That then, how do we deal with that? And are we taught to deal with that in a healthy way? Which leads us to the section on addiction. So beautiful. He has such a compassionate view of addiction. It is not seen as some people are normal, and then there's the other. There's the addicts. There's, people that should be shunned and punished and sent off. What I love is he says, don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. It says, just as I have never met anyone who chose to become addicted, neither have I met anyone whose addictions did not, at their onset at least, provide for some essential human need. So it just gets really into, again, getting into the core of where this all stems from. On page 213, it says, 2 leading misconceptions that addiction is either the product of bad choices or a disease. So he's claiming those are misconceptions. And again, could be argued. There's so much evidence in here. But he also gets into that we put too much weight into blaming addictions, diseases, etc. on genes. Now, really important. Although this information can be hard to swallow, we can start to think like we're just living like zombies. It is super uplifting. It's super hopeful. And, the truth, it can be hard to hear, but if there's a part of you that's like, nothing about this sounds uplifting, trust me, there are these stories of people with terminal illnesses and addictions that were so completely transformative and beautiful. And they often came to find that it was this need that wasn't met, or it was because they were not their authentic self and their body literally shut down to say, I can't take this anymore. There are very practical tips for dealing with stress, for healing yourself. There is an incredible chapter on psychedelics. And his journey with psychedelics. I will not ruin it for you, but it's wonderful. It's a great story. It helps you embrace your authenticity, reflect. There are some questions to consider at the end to just reflect on whether you are being true to yourself or not. Getting into why we feel the need to escape our reality or to escape the present moment. So thank you, Gabor, Daniel. This is awesome. I loved and appreciate it and want to share it. And so thank you for creating this.